Hello and welcome back. This is another fifth grade math video. And in this video, our focus is going to be on how to subtract fractions that have what we call unlike denominators, which means that the denominators don't start out to be the same number. Okay, here is our first example. We're going to take the fraction 1/4 and we're going to subtract 1 over 24. So you may have noticed that these fractions do not have the same denominator right now. One has 4 and one has 24. But I'm going to go ahead and write them so that one is directly on top of each other. Let's see, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I need to change these fractions so that they both have the same denominator. So the first thing I'm going to do is check with the smaller denominator, which is 4, to see if I can multiply it to get the larger denominator. And in this case, that I can, because I can multiply 4 times 6 to get 24. So that's good news because that means I only need to change one of the fractions. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top of this fraction as I would to the bottom to keep it equivalent. So 1 times 6 is equal to 6. So that's the numerator now for this fraction. And then 4 times 6 is 24. So I'm going to put a 24 down here. I'm going to keep the second fraction the same because it was already over 24. And now I'm ready to subtract those. So I'm going to keep that denominator of 24. That does not change. But I'm going to do 6 minus 1, which leaves me with 5. So the final answer to this would be 5 over 24. Okay, here is the next one. This one is 9 over 10 minus 5 over 12. So I'm going to rewrite those fractions again. 9 over 10 minus 5 over 12. So again, they don't have the same denominator. One has 10 and one has 12. So I'm going to look at the smaller one to see if I can multiply it to get the larger one. 10 times something to get 12, which I cannot do. That won't work. So my next option is to multiply them by each other. So I'm going to multiply the 10 times the 12 and the 12 times the 10. That way I will get the same number on the bottom. Whatever I did to the bottom of each fraction, I have to do to the top of each fraction. So this needs to be times 12, and this is going to be times 10. That way I keep these fractions equivalent. So let's start by doing 9 times 12. Now that I don't know off the top of my head, so I'm going to come over here to the side and do it, and I end up with 108. And then 10 times 12 is 120. So there's the first fraction. I keep the minus sign in between. 5 times 10 is 50. And then 12 times 10 is 120. Okay, so I'm going to keep that 120 as the denominator, but now I need to do 108 minus 50 on the top. So when I do that, I end up with 58. So this is a good answer. This is a correct answer, but it's not a simplified answer, so it could be better. The reason I know that is because they're both even numbers, both 58 and 120, which means I could divide them both by 2 to simplify that answer. So that answer is correct. 58 over 120 is just not the most simplified answer. So 58 divided by 2 ends up being 29. And then 120 divided by 2 is 60. So now this is as far as I can simplify it. I know that because 29 is a prime number, which means that the only two numbers I can multiply together to get 29 are 1 and 29. So therefore, it's the only things I could divide it by. Dividing by 1 won't really change the answer, but dividing by 29, I wouldn't be able to take 60 and divide it by 29. And I would have something left over, which would not be good for simplifying. So this is a correct answer. This is a better correct answer. So either answer you get would be correct, either 58 over 120 or 29 over 60. Okay, here is our next one. We're going to do 8 over 9 minus 2 over 3. Okay, so again, our denominators are different. I'm going to start with the smaller one, which is 3, to see if I can multiply it to get the larger one. And in this case, I can, because I can do 3 times 3 to get 9. So I'm going to multiply this times 3 and the top of this fraction times 3. So I'm going to leave 8 over 9 the same because it was already over 9, minus, then 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. So now my fractions are 8 over 9 minus 6 over 9. So I'm going to keep 9 the same, just like we do when we're adding. The size of the pieces doesn't change, but 8 minus 6 would be 2. So this one can't be simplified. It's already in simplest form. So this is our final answer, 2 over 9. Okay, here's our next example. We have 11 over 12 minus 1/2. So let me go ahead and rewrite those here. 11 over 12 minus 1/2. So I'm going to start with the smaller denominator, which is 2, to see if I can multiply it to get 12. And in this case, I can. So I can do 2 times 6, which will give me 12. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top of this fraction. That means I get to leave the first fraction the way it is. So 11 over 12 minus, now 1 times 6 is 6, and 2 times 6 is 12. Now that they have the same denominator of 12, I'll keep that, but I'll do 11 minus 6, which is 5. Now this is already simplified because the only thing I could divide it by the top by would be 5, which won't work for the bottom. So final answer here would be 5 over 12. Okay, here is our next example and our last one for today's video. We're going to take 7 over 8 and we're going to subtract 1/2. Okay, so let's look at that smaller denominator of 2 to see if I can multiply it to get 8. And in this case, I can because I could multiply it by 4. So that's what I'm going to do to both the top and the bottom of that fraction, multiply it by 4. I'm going to leave 7 over 8 the same because it's already over 8. Keep the subtraction sign. 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. So now I have two fractions I can subtract. I'm going to keep 8 on the bottom as the numerator, and 7 minus 4, which is 3. 3 over 8 is already simplified because the only thing I could divide that top number by would be 3, and that doesn't work for the bottom number. So final answer here is 3 over 8. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you in another video soon.